Broncos country, Broncos land. What's going on? Here for another episode, a very special episode of David Talks Broncos, joined here by my friend from Let's Talk Broncos, Joey Richards. What's going on? How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good.
Well, awesome. It really means a lot to have you on this show, making the debut. At some point, we got to have you on to talk Buffs as well. But really honored to be sharing some time with you today, talking about your trip to Mobile last week, going to the Senior Bowl, all of that, what your thoughts are right now with how you think the Broncos are approaching what could be a big offseason overhaul for the team. But yeah, let's before we dive into that, why don't you tell any viewers, anybody watching on the replay that is not familiar with your work, Joey, what you guys got going on over at Let's Talk Broncos?
Yeah, we have first, thank you for having me on, man. I'm excited to be on. This is fun. I'm a big fan of your Buff stuff, your David Talk Buffs, and I'm excited that you're getting into the Broncos too. So yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, check us out. Let's Talk Broncos. It's me, Zach Seegers, Bree Maestas, Frankie Films. We have a bunch of people over at Let's Talk Broncos. We have Broncos content going almost every single day. Long podcast, hour and a half podcast going. Just everything Broncos. You guys like NFL draft? If you guys want Russell Wilson news, we got it all at Let's Talk Broncos. So make sure you're checking that out.
Yes, absolutely love it. Link to their channel is in the description of my video, as well as following Joey on Twitter at JR Drafts. So please be sure to give him a follow over there as well. But man, let's dive into this. Really cool that you had the opportunity to go to the Senior Bowl this past week and a half or so. How was that experience for you? Was it your first time? Did you run into our friend Bird's Eye View over there?
I didn't. I was we were messaging beforehand, just on Twitter, just like where are we gonna meet? What's going on? I didn't run into him, man. Wish I did. I don't know. His cousin was performing out there, which is super cool. But the Senior Bowl was awesome. It was my first time going. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time. Just covering the NFL draft. That's kind of how I got my start into media, was just covering the draft. And that naturally just went over to, hey, I'm going to cover the Broncos during the regular season. So yeah, I got my credentials all figured out. I was able to go, and it was fun. You get to see these players up close, and I think that's valuable. Just part of the evaluation process. You want to see just how these guys look live. The camera changes things every once in a while, and you really aren't able to see everything on TV like you are at practice. So yeah, it was really good. I think it was worth it.
Did you have any people like on your bucket list you were hoping to meet, or talk with any other media members or coaches that you were hoping to talk to, or just, hey, it was a surprise?
Yeah, it was kind of a surprise. I didn't know the rules. I just went down there. Hey, I'm going. Like I didn't know what was going on. It was all last minute. I messaged everybody else at Let's Talk Broncos. Nobody wanted to go. I was like, screw it, I'm going then, man. I went by myself.
Nobody wanted to go. What the heck?
Nobody wanted to go, so I went dolo, man. I was there. It was fun. I didn't know what to expect with the whole situation. They did a little whistle, and media members were able to get on the field and interview some players. And I just, studying the class and studying who was out there, I just chased some questions. I was able to interview Luke McCaffrey, who obviously was from Colorado, went to Valor Christian High School down here, which was cool. Asked him a little about, hey, you played quarterback at Valor. Did that help you transition to wide receiver at all? Some of the offensive linemen. It was really cool being able to talk to these guys too. Maye Smith, so another guy, yeah.
Oh, very cool. Well, yeah, in terms of the players at the Senior Bowl, who are some guys that really stuck out to you? They could be some of the big name guys. They could be guys that were more under the radar, but that you think the Broncos should have their eye on, that you thought maybe improved their stock this past week?
I don't know if anybody improved their stock more than the kid from Toledo, Quinyon Johnson, Mitchell. The corner from Toledo. He was terrific. I think the question for him coming into the Senior Bowl was, hey, you're from Toledo. You really haven't played that much high-end competition. What do you look like when you play these guys? And what did he do? He shut everybody down. Nobody really beat him. So, yeah, his draft stock is skyrocketing. I'd also
Mhm.
say Darius Robinson from Mizzou, the kind of defensive lineman. He lines up
Yeah.
anywhere. He might line up as your one tech, or he might line up as your nine tech on a different down. Big 6'5", 290-pound player, but lines up multiple positions on your defensive line. He's a guy that I thought going in, I'm like, okay, he's going to get second, third round looks. I wouldn't be shocked at all if he were a first round pick by the end of all of this now.
Wow. Okay, man, I love that.
Yeah,
And in terms of like the wide receivers, I mean, they had a lot of good wide receivers there as
absolutely.
well. You know, you touched on Luke McCaffrey a little bit. Would love to hear more about him, as well as anybody else that you thought had a really good week.
Yeah, Luke was very consistent. He was very consistent every single day in practice, and he's more of your slot wide receiver. He's like a big slot, is what
Mhm.
he is. Coming from Rice, he went to Nebraska originally, played quarterback there, and then transferred to Rice and did a little position transition, and went to wide receiver down there and was awesome. And I thought he was really good. I thought Roman Wilson was the best pound for pound wide
Yeah.
receiver out there. It was fun. At the end of practice, they kind of did like a best on best thing. Like you get
Mhm.
somebody calling somebody else out for a one-on-one. And it
Huh.
was Mitchell versus Roman Wilson. And Roman Wilson kind of broke his ankles a little bit. Mitchell fell. This was like the only time he was beat. And then one hand catch on the sideline, 2 feet in. It was awesome. Roman Wilson was really, really good during that. There were a lot of wide receivers though. It's I would say the Senior Bowl is very wide receiver friendly. Like
Yeah.
one on ones, they are just like a wide receiver friendly deal. They're supposed to win, and that's
Mhm.
that's that's a lot of the practice. So, I thought a lot of guys looked good.
Yeah, this draft, like, and granted, the Broncos essentially, I mean, they could use help at every position right now. That's kind of like how I feel
Absolutely.
right now with the roster. But yeah, looking at what was going on at the Senior Bowl, having some time to dive into, um, some of the big boards and stuff like that. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of players that could play a great role for the Broncos here coming up. I wish we had more picks, but that's just kind of where we're at right now. But I'm curious to hear from you in terms of like the quarterbacks there that were there as well. I know that like if you watch my channel, you know I'm on that Spencer Rattler train for QB4. And that kind of has to go with value as well, kind of where I have him ranked. I understand the ceiling with JJ McCarthy. It's looking like he probably might be a top 15 pick right now with how people are
Yeah.
talking about him. But in terms of Rattler, Bo Nix, who are some other guys there? Michael Pratt and Michael Penix. How did those guys fare? Were there any guys that you felt like your opinion of them changed, I guess, over the course of the week?
You go into that and you had the 2 headliners, those being Nix and Penix, and
Mhm.
you wanted to see them be like, just kind of plant their flag into I'm a first round pick, and it
Mhm.
didn't happen. That just did not happen. It didn't happen. Didn't happen at all. It wasn't good. I was waiting for it. You kind of give them the pass on the first day. All right, cool. You're working with all new people. You don't have the timing down. It's a new playbook. Like everything's new. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be crisp. It's gonna be clean. No. And then second day, you usually from talking to other people there. Second day is the day
Mhm.
where you usually start to see them, iron out some of those kinks. Didn't really happen. And then third day rolled around, and it's like, okay, I see some stuff. I thought Nick's had some good reps in red zone drill.
Mhm.
I thought Penix also had some good reps in red zone drill. They just didn't show enough. I don't think either of them showed enough.
Mhm.
It was a problem. Like I don't know. I view both of those guys more as day 2 guys, round
Yeah.
3, round 2, round 3 prospects. I'm not viewing them as first round at all anymore. And your guy, I thought Rattler looked the best pound for pound, and I
Mhm.
think a lot of that had to do with this is a aggressive quarterback, Rattler,
Yeah.
and he has nothing to lose. Like, hey, I am kind of viewed lower than these guys. All I can do is go up. And he took advantage of it. I am going to be aggressive out here. Even if I do make a mistake, I'm going to make the most big plays. And I think that's exactly what he did. Rattler, I thought, was the best looking quarterback out there for sure.
Man, that's real interesting stuff, man, because I don't know if somebody like Rattler might be like the easiest fit for a Sean Payton system or something like that. But I mean, as Broncos fans, like, we watch Patrick Mahomes, light us up for the most part at least 2 times every year. And he kind of has some of that ability to make some big plays when stuff is looking bad, when it's breaking down. Maybe not the most consistent, but I'm wondering, man, were you able to talk to anyone from the Broncos there? Did you get any beat on kind of how they looked at these quarterbacks at all?
I didn't. It's funny, at the Senior Bowl, you're just there with, at the practices, all it is scouts. Like, I saw John Lynch walking around one night. It was like you just see a bunch of different NFL people walking around, and then media people.
Yeah.
That's all that you see. So when a rumor starts, one person tells somebody something. Scout might tell a media person something. It spreads like wildfire. Everybody knows immediately. And the one team I couldn't figure anything out on is the Broncos. Nobody knows.
Wow.
Nobody knows. Sean Payton and his crew, and George Payton, obviously, GM, and his crew seem just very tight-lipped, which is so different. I mean, I'm sure you remember, too, being a Broncos fans for a while. When John Elway was the general manager, I felt like I knew their first-round pick a month out.
Negotiations with Von Miller in the public and just everything, man. You're totally right about that.
Yeah, I literally have a vivid memory of talking about Drew Lock to the mailman like a month and a half before the Broncos drafted him, because everyone knew the Broncos liked him. It's just so different than what it is now, which honestly is a good thing for the franchise. You don't want all the NFL teams knowing who you like and who you don't. You want to be mysterious in the way, hey, I'm moving up for a player. You may not know who I like right now. You may not.
Man, yeah, it gives us a lot to talk about and to speculate about as we approach April. So I've been wanting to get to this, Joey. I think you might have put out a tweet. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you might have put out a tweet that said earlier, like, sometimes you just got to get worse before you can get better. Something like that. How would you like the Broncos to be handling this offseason and, more specifically, this draft?
I've been saying it since the trade deadline, and people hated me for it. I thought at the deadline, the week after they beat the Chiefs, one win shouldn't change my philosophy. I'm still going out here, and it's time to sell some of these pieces that I thought were building blocks. They aren't. The Broncos since 2015 have been having a mid-off every single year.
No.
Who's like, that's really the issue. It really is the issue. They just want to get to a place where it's like, ooh, we're pushing for the playoffs. That shouldn't be your goal. It should be, how do we get to the Super Bowl? And it's unsustainable betting on 28, 29, 30-year-olds and saying this is the core, and just looking around at the team right now, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So the Broncos should be looking to sell off some of these pieces. Ultimately, yes, they would be getting worse, which sucks. But it's something that has to come in building the team that you're looking for. You want these players in their prime right now, and they're just not. So ultimately, I think, hey, this might just be a year you have to, I'm fast forwarding to the year after. that kind of I'm trying to get an early pick next year. I want to continue to build on the foundation, and in the draft this year I should just be looking for building blocks. Whoever I think is the best player and whoever available is who I should be taking. The only two players I think are really foundational, these guys can help us win a Super Bowl at some point, are Patrick Surtain and Quinn Miners right now, just because they fit the timeline with their age. Those are the only two players on this team that I'm really feeling like that with right now. Totally.
Yeah. Outside of Miners and Patrick Surtain, I don't care, man. As much as I love Justin Simmons, for instance, I mean, he's kind of getting closer to the end of his career, which is crazy, you know, how fast time flies. And you'd almost want to see him go to some place where he could contend for a ring and us be able to shed some salary cap as well. Did you see that rumor? I forget who put it out today or yesterday that the Broncos are exploring a franchise tag with Lloyd Cushenberry. Is that just for the purpose of trading him for draft cap?
I think I don't know where I just think that's fake.
Okay.
If I'm being honest, that's what I think. I just don't see it being true. Lloyd did come off his best year.
Yeah.
He had a good year at center ultimately, but that's not. I don't think that's true. And you know why? If you go back to the end of year presser, George Payton had, he said some really interesting things, and he was pointing out some of these young pieces that the Broncos have. Alex Forsyth, which is the Broncos, I think it was their 7th round pick this last year. He said, yeah, we view him as a future starter, which to me is like, okay, Lloyd's days are done here. That's what that means. I don't know why else you would be telling us this. And he was saying that across the board. He said Drew Sanders, future starter, guys that we really didn't see play this much this year. And it also kind of lends me to believe that, yeah, the Broncos do know, hey, we have to get worse right now.
Yeah, no doubt. It would be very interesting to see some of those guys take that step into becoming starters. I think I was excited about a guy like Drew Sanders or, you know, Riley Moss, for instance, coming in this year. We just didn't really see them hit the field, you know, much. I think, yeah, with the Broncos going through this rebuild, I think if they're going to get back to the playoffs, especially for, you know, how we're going to have to shed some salary caps, some guys that, you know, we're going to have to let go. I mean, Drew Sanders, if he can be a starter for us next year there at inside linebacker, that would be incredibly helpful. If we can rely on somebody like Riley Moss to take that jump and be a starting corner for us, you know, that's very helpful. But I feel like we have a lot of unknowns moving off of some of our, you know, high price guys. And that brings me to the draft where, hey, if you're going to be throwing out a bunch of unknowns this year, trying to see if they stick or not, if they can develop, if there isn't a guy that you absolutely love at 12, I just want us to trade down, man, get as many picks as we can, as many spins of the wheel as we can get. Because I feel like, honestly, man, we need talent everywhere, man. There isn't one position that I don't feel like we shouldn't be taking a look at to draft right now.
I totally agree with you. If you can, unless there's a quarterback at 12 that you love, I would be a proponent of trading back. Ultimately, like, I love some of these players at 12. I think this is a fantastic offensive line class. I think this is one of the better offensive line classes I've seen. I think, you know, some of these pass catchers, if they slide, if Roma Dunze, if Brock Bowers, if one of these guys slides 12, that would be cool. But ultimately, the Broncos have so many needs that one star player isn't going to be better than multiple good. That's really what you're looking for there. You're looking for young and good. So I do agree with you. I think trading back is what you would want to do here. If you're the Broncos, unless Sean Payton's like, JJ McCarthy is my dude, go pick up more picks, still take advantage of that offensive line class later. The wide receiver class is insane. Go take advantage of that. Go build up some picks. Go get yourself more top 100 picks. The Broncos have one. That's an issue. So, like, it's just an issue. That's not what you want. And obviously, they can trade some players to get that. Like, hey, I know Jerry Jeudy, a team, Adam Schefter said on the radio, team offered a third for him at the trade deadline, and the Broncos declined. So
Really,
yeah.
you decline that? Why?
I
don't think we're getting that now. I don't think we're getting that kind of value now. Do you?
No, I don't know. But hey, if somebody's still willing to give us a third for Jerry Jeudy, I'm taking it. Somebody wants to give me a third for Cortland Sutton, I'm probably taking it. Garrett Bowles was a really good left tackle this year. If you're a believer in his longevity as a player and you want him, you could probably take him. I'm selling right now, man. It's a garage sale in front of my Broncos team.
Man, Yeah, I wouldn't mind it, man, especially if you're going to go with a young quarterback this year, such as JJ McCarthy, or a guy that we pick on day 2 just to see kind of what happens. Yeah, move off some of those veterans, go get some other young players that you can develop around him. But my question to you is, Joey, do you think that's how Sean Payton is going to be handling the approach to this draft?
Yes. See, that's the $1,000,000 question. I don't know. Um, I have 2 schools of thought here. I
Yeah,
think Sean Payton probably knows that that's best for the Broncos. Ultimately, is hey, we need to start building this thing from the ground up. I want to. He's probably thinking I want to implement my own culture, anyways. I have these guys that have been here for multiple tenures under different coaches, and they just haven't been able to get it done. I want to start
yeah,
implementing my guys, is probably what
yeah,
he's thinking. At the same time, I'm sitting there thinking, this is a coach that already retired before. Like, does he want to go through a full rebuild?
yeah,
That is the other thing that I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know. I have no idea. Is Sean Payton the type of coach that wants to coach until he's 90 like Wade Phillips? Or does he
I hope
or
so with what we gave up for him.
absolutely, absolutely. Or is he type of guy where it's like, hey, I'm gonna get my good 6 years in here, 5 years in here, and then I'm gonna call it quits. I'm gonna go back to I liked TV. I liked being
Yeah,
on TV. Is he going to do that? So I think it just depends. And it's going to be telling. This offseason is the year where you're going to be able to tell that exactly. If Sean Payton is in this for the long haul or whether he's in this to win right now. That's what you're going to be able to tell.
yeah, yeah. I hope he's comfortable here because I would love him to be coach here for quite a while, especially in the division right now where Jim Harbaugh just entered. And I
Absolutely.
mean, maybe Andy Reid, maybe those rumors are true from like Pro Football Talk or whatever about Andy Reid retiring if they win the Super Bowl this year. I don't
Please
know,
do.
man, but who knows? But I would love for him to stick around. But I'm curious, what your thoughts are right now if we do stick at 12. I mean, Sean Payton's been super aggressive in certain drafts in the past, so I'm
Hmm.
not like totally ruling out a trade up. I just think it's very unlikely. But JJ McCarthy, man, give me your thoughts right now on him, if he's the guy. I guess if I had to put like a betting favorite right now, he would probably be the guy I would pick to go to the Broncos.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that JJ is probably the most likely to be drafted at 12 out of these guys. I don't think Daniels or Maye, any of those guys are going to fall. And I don't think Nix or Penix will ultimately go that high. So I think McCarthy is the person, if you want a quarterback at 12, who's going to be available and might warrant it based off the league's opinion. Um,
Mhm.
I think though, so here's my thing with JJ. He's kind of an impossible, I think, evaluation from an outsider's standpoint. I look at him and I'm like, okay, he has all the tools. He has all the tools. He's not physically deficient in any one thing. He can move. He has a strong arm. He has everything. He's plenty tall. He has the height, everything, all the
Mhm.
physical stuff, check boxes. But and then I can also see the scouts. I already hear it a million miles away. If you've ever talked to an NFL scout, you're going to hear um, the words winner and just like it's going to be flipped
Yeah.
like 15 times. You're going
All
to
the
hear that word.
intangibles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every single synonym is going to be listed there. It's going to be crazy. And he's only 21, which is 2 years, almost 3 years younger than both Knicks and Penix. So what teams are going to do are they're going to view him as a clay, just something they can mold is what they're
Mhm.
going to view him as. And I think part of that evaluation is how is he as a person? How is he on the whiteboard? How is he in those circumstances? And that's something I'm just don't have the luxury to do. You're right.
Yeah.
That's something I just have to throw my hands up and be like, hey, I have no clue. I don't know. I have no idea. What I do know is that he comes from a pro style offense, which is very different from some of these other guys. And he has really good tools. So I think if the Broncos drafted him 12, I'd be in the camp of being like, hey, well, I'm going to try to trust Sean Payton on this one. He was in the meetings with the guy, and Davis Webb quarterback. I'm just quarterback coach. I'm going to trust you guys to evaluate him here because I trust you guys. If it were another coach, I'd probably say differently.
Yeah, if, for instance, Vic Fangio was still the coach here and we're taking a quarterback like that in the first round, I have no hope that we're going to be able to develop JJ, but with a guy like Sean Payton, it does make you think like, hey, can we help get this guy closer to his ceiling rather than like where his floor is at? And I'm curious, like, do you think, like, say we do pick him, okay?
Okay.
Do you think like out the gate, we would just see him given like more responsibility than we saw him have at Michigan, or like running more through him? I guess that's the biggest criticism of that. Just didn't throw much.
Yeah. And that's an interesting point because we all saw Trey Lance go third. Guess what? I was looking at this the other day. Trey Lance, half the attempts JJ McCarthy has had in his career.
Are you serious?
And I saw him go third. So I definitely could see JJ McCarthy go 12. That's something to be because you got to think Lance had 1 year as a starter, came from a similar offense to where we're not asking much of you because we're in North Dakota State, and in our conference, we're so much better than everybody. You don't have to throw.
You just throw it up to Christian Watson, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then it was COVID year, and he took the year off and then entered the NFL draft. So he had that 1 year of play there at North Dakota State. And he went third. So I definitely could see JJ go 12 here. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, I don't think there's any better way for a young quarterback to learn than just live reps. That's what you're going to need. And ultimately, the Broncos probably suck this year. JJ probably isn't very good. And you're just hoping to see that continuous development throughout the year. And almost in that type of situation, I'm more hesitant to trade Garrett Bowles. I'm more hesitant to trade Cortland Sutton because I still don't want to ruin him. I want him to be okay back there. You know what I mean? I don't want him to go out with an ACL tear year one, and I want him to have some targets to throw to. So I think if I go JJ McCarthy, my strategy on what I'm doing this offseason changes drastically as well.
Yeah. I totally agree, man. But I do have a hypothetical for you. Say we're at 12. JJ McCarthy's off the board, okay?
Love it.
But Brock Bowers is still there at 12.
That's the dude.
We take him or we trade back? What are you doing?
Whew, that's such a tough one. You
gotta imagine there's going to be teams that are willing to trade up with you if he's available there at 12. But man, I'm so sick of our tight end room, man. It's been so stale for so long.
Yep. And hey, I don't know if there's a better coach at utilizing like players with interesting skill sets. Like Lil Jordan Humphrey this year was a player that I'm not sure he works or even has a roster spot on like 90% of other teams. But because Sean Payton's able to carve out a role to highlight his skill set, which is like, excuse me, I'm a huge slot wide receiver. I'm really good at blocking, and I'm a possession catch guy. Sean Payton has him in motion doing all these crazy blocking stuff, like almost like a tight end. Like I'm going to go crack down on a D end right now. It's crazy stuff you see from him, or even a guy like Chris Manhurts, where he's exclusively a blocking tight end. I think it would be so cool watching Brock Bowers in this offense with his skill set. Extremely unique. I can't even imagine what Sean Payton would do with him. I think it would be amazing. I think the Broncos are a great fit for him too. So I would say, like, if I were Brock Bowers' camp, I'd be like, ooh, we should try to get ourselves to 12 to the Broncos right there.
Yes. I mean, I would be a big fan of it. It would be really hard for me to pass up taking him if he's available. But again, I understand with 6-7 draft picks, whatever we have, one top 100 pick. Man, there's so many other guys in the late first, early second round that I feel like could be helpful on our lines on both sides of the field. But I want to ask you about this, Joey, too.
Yeah.
Another big draft guy here in the Denver area, Cecil Lammey, is big on Bo Nix. He's on the Bo Nix train. it seems like other people still see him as a first round talent right now. Can you help me understand this?
I mean, I would say another guy with really good tools, really good tools. He can move really well. I don't think he has a bad arm at all. I would just say that I don't think we got to see like a clean evaluation. Like I feel more comfortable with JJ McCarthy's evaluation coming from the offense he came from than I do Bo Nix. Here's a stat for you guys. Percentage of passes that they consider short. So shorter passes, right? Shorter downfield. 64% of his passes were considered short. The next closest is Caleb Williams at 56. So it's a massive, massive difference. Like that's just something where I'd be like, man, I don't know. Like how clean are we watching like this evaluation to the NFL? Are we going to be able to do the same stuff Oregon does just with the amount of talent they have comparative to their competition? They're like Troy Franklin, who is an awesome NFL prospect, but running wide open, short down the field, catch it, and break off for 30. Like I just don't see that. That's something that I don't see working in the NFL. I like I said earlier, I think he's closer to. I would rather draft him in the 5th round than I would the 1st round. I would rather. Yeah. I think he's closer to a 3rd round prospect in my eyes. I don't see the day one stuff at all.
Yeah, that's kind of how I see him as well. And again, he's just older. So I don't know, man. Like I think Bo Nix is going to be an interesting case study because I mean, he does have the most starts in college football history, if I remember correctly. I think he's got like 60. And yeah, nobody has come in here as a quarterback that has played that amount of games in college before going to the NFL. So, hey, maybe he starts a new trend if he ends up hitting. But yeah, there are a lot of big question marks that I have about how easy of a transition he'll have coming to the pro game. And we'll just have to see.
We'll have to see. Yeah. Be the first time I was wrong. Wouldn't be the first time I was wrong.
Same here. You know, when man, it must have been, when was the Bradley Chubb draft?
What was that? I forget the year.
D-Mac called that draft. I don't know if you ever listened to him in Big Al during that time, but he called it the Hall of Fame 5. That's how he coined the that draft class with the quarterbacks. And so you had Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. And you know who I wanted the Broncos to draft? Josh Rosen, man. Probably the worst out of all of them. So
yeah, it wouldn't be the first time we were wrong here. I mean, and who knows if Nix takes on some good coaching, maybe he did learn a lot from college and he can put those tools into effect. I saw somebody I respect be like, hey, why can't he be like Jalen Hurts, where I'm running him a lot in the NFL and I'm using those tools more. And honestly, I think Nix is more willing to throw over the middle of the field than some of these other guys. Like that's something I just don't see from Penix is, dude, you never throw over the middle of the field. That's something we just saw with Russell Wilson here. If you're a Broncos fan, you need to be able to throw over the middle of the field. You can't just say this entire portion of the field we can't throw to. So he is more willing to throw over the middle of the field than some of these other guys. So he does have some stuff going for him. It's just like the first round noise to me is crazy. Like, am I willing to say, because first round is, if he doesn't turn out to be good, this is a huge L. Like, this is not fun. And I don't believe in him enough to say that, you know?
No, I don't either. I guess we'll wrap this up with this last kind of hypothetical. Would love your take on this player. You trade, obviously we don't have a second. You trade some other pick for Justin Fields.
Okay.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel about Justin Fields working with Sean Payton? That's something a lot of people seem to bring up the idea of.
I think Justin Fields is extremely talented. I do. I don't think that's in question. Just like the talent is absurd from Justin Fields. I don't think Sean Payton's really going to want a guy like that though this year. I don't think that's his flavor of quarterback. Just because Justin Fields has a tough time throwing on schedule. That's been his knock since he's been in the league, and he's gotten better at it, but it's still not like to an efficient level at all.
No.
Everything comes off schedule with him, which is, hey, if you find a coach that's cool with that, he might be able to develop. It's just not the Broncos. And like I said about the Knicks thing, the asking price that's thrown out there for Fields is a second. Is he actually going to get a second? I don't know. But still, if I trade what's equivalent, because the Broncos don't even have a second, but what's equivalent to a second for Justin Fields, and he doesn't pan out, that's an L. And do I believe in Justin Fields heavy enough to say I'm willing to take that big of a risk and you not work out? No, I'm not. Now, if we're talking like a 4th round pick or something like that, I might be more willing to do something like that.
Yeah. I think right now I'd probably go even lower than that, just because he's a guy that is going to want a contract extension, and that's something else to factor in. We'll see what the Bears can get. I hope to see him in a new spot, just to see what he can do outside of Chicago, because, I mean, that's where all quarterbacks go to die pretty much. But I don't think it's the right fit here. If you had to give one guess of if we bring in a bridge quarterback, who is it? Who's the guy that you want the Broncos to bring in?
Ooh, want is crazy. I don't know about want. It's tough because if I'm saying the Broncos should get worse before they get better, I'm looking at a bridge quarterback. I'm looking at a guy that the Broncos can sign maybe to a 2-year deal, and I can get out of it after one if I want to. I think like Jacoby Brissett, somebody like that. Somebody that can come in here and run the offense efficiently. Maybe they're not maybe they're not amazing, but someone I can actually see Sean Payton's offense work a little bit with. And I think Jacoby Brissett is an answer for that. I think he's a serviceable quarterback.
Hey, I think I would be totally cool with that. There's a lot of ways to satisfy how I would feel, or to satisfy my feeling about getting a competent bridge quarterback, and that's kind of the guy that I want. I'm partial to Jameis Winston just because, hey, if we're gonna lose games, just air that thing out, man. Let's make it entertaining at least, right?
Let's fun. Yeah.
Let's see how let's have Marvin Mims run like, more so a full route tree this year, right? Let's start to incorporate him more. But obviously we got another month or so until free agency starts, and maybe we'll see some contract adjustments or restructures start to happen that will give us a clue on how Sean Payton is going to approach this offseason. But, I mean, until then, we got plenty of more time to speculate and start rumors and comment on them as well. But Joe, we really appreciate your time coming on here with me. It means a lot to have you on the show for the first time, and I would love to do this again another time soon.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to be on, and thank you again for having me on, man. I'm excited that you started the Broncos portion of your thing going on here. I'm excited about it.
Thanks. Greatly appreciated, guys. Thank you so much for checking this out. Be sure to hit a like. Let me know your thoughts on all the items that we discussed in the comments, and please go subscribe to Let's Talk Broncos. Links in the description, as well as Joey's Twitter, JR Draft. So until next time, everybody, go Broncos.